If you're from Michigan, you know that you don't toss cans or bottles in the trash. Here, they're a valuable commodity, the most valuable in the country, at 10 cents a pop. A deposit so large, it was made famous on Seinfeld.
What is this MI 10 cents?
That's Michigan.
In Michigan, you get 10 cents.
10 cents.
I think it's a great rule.
I think it's been really good for Michigan.
I just think it's a waste of time.
Get rid of the bottle law completely.
I think the bottle bill in Michigan has been the best bottle bill in the country, but we're getting to the point now where it's in danger.
Michiganders have been diligently returning our pop bottles and beer cans to grocery stores since the 1970s. But stores are tired of the sticky mess. Distributors want help covering the cost of the program, and our overall recycling rate still stinks. Changes to Michigan's bottle deposit law could be bubbling up. There's an unwritten rule at tailgates in Michigan. It's okay to toss your empties on the ground. Can collectors will turn your trash into dimes. But in the 1970s, single-use bottles and cans were creating a pollution problem.
You would go fishing, hiking, swimming, and there would just be containers strewn across our beaches, across our rivers. You know, there was just this drive from the Governor Milliken, to clean that up and make Michigan cleaner for outdoor recreation.
In 1976, Michigan voters passed the law commonly known as the Bottle Bill. It added a highest-in-the-nation 10-cent deposit to single-use carbonated beverage containers, the equivalent of 47 cents today. The bill has been popular and successful. While Michigan's redemption rate has declined slightly over the past few years, before the disruption of COVID-19 in 2020, Michiganders were still returning cans at a higher rate than any of the 9 other states with bottle bills.
It gives the people, a little bit more money in their pockets when they lost funds.
It's kind of a user agreement that you clean up after yourself and you keep the world a better place.
It amazes me whenever I go out of state, I just see garbage cans, overflowing with the things. It's like, man, you just threw away, $3,
We've created this ethos of protecting the environment and the outdoor spaces from litter, which was the number one goal of the bill. Secondary to that was making sure that this stuff was recycled, and it's also wildly successful at that.
But when it comes to recycling everything else, Michigan is anything but wildly successful. Our overall recycling rate is just 19%, while the national average is 32%. There are a lot of reasons for this, including plentiful landfill space that makes throwing things out cheaper than recycling. There are also a lot of drinks sold in recyclable containers that aren't covered under the bottle bill, like water, hard cider, canned wine, tea, coffee, and sports drinks.
When this passed in 1976, you had pop and you had alcohol, beer. They never imagined that we would be buying, giant cases of bottled water, or that Gatorade would exist.
Michigan legislators have proposed extending deposits to cover more types of beverages, as other states have done. But grocery stores have enough problems dealing with the containers they take back now, according to Amy Drum of the Michigan Retailers Association.
Retail employees do not like handling these containers. They find really disgusting things in them.
We found diapers in can bags before. We've found mice in bottles before. Nothing makes more of a mess out of our back room than when we dump a bag and it's got all them cigarette butts and they go everywhere.
You think about it, you're bringing trash back into grocery stores, and that's where you buy your clean, fresh food that you're going to eat.
How did we end up with this system? Here's how it all works under the current law. Distributors charge the 10-cent deposit to retailers, who then pass the charge on to customers and refund it when containers are returned. Then retailers get their deposit refunded when distributors pick up the empty containers. Some other bottle bill states have redemption centers, but Michiganders can only return cans to stores. Containers are tracked and sorted by reverse vending machines at bigger retailers or by hand at smaller stores like Party World in Comstock Park.
The employees take them to the back and we sort them by vendor. They have to be Bud takes Bud, Miller takes Miller, Pabst takes Pabst.
The onus of getting containers recycled ultimately falls on distributors, explains Spencer Nevins of the Michigan Beer and Wine Wholesalers Association.
You've got to sort it, you've got to clean those containers, you've got to crush the glass, then you've got to crush aluminum in a different machine. You have to bind it all, package it all, and then get it to a recycler.
The vast majority of Michigan's returnables end up at Shupan Recycling, which has facilities in Grand Rapids, Wixom, and Kalamazoo.
Aluminum is recycled into more aluminum cans. Plastic beverage containers are often recycled into plastic beverage containers, and glass is actually recycled into more glass containers. And that's not necessarily true for those same containers that go through a curbside system because of contamination rates and the fact that it's intermingled with other plastics.
So what happens to the leftover deposits from bottles and cans never returned to retailers? All those dimes add up. $43 million worth of unclaimed deposits were left on the table in 2019. And that number skyrocketed to $108 million in 2020 when the COVID shutdown left returnables piled in garages across the state. Initially, distributors, who, remember, are responsible for getting returnables recycled, got to keep the extra dimes. But an amendment passed in 1989 changed that. 25% of that pot is now given to retailers, and 75% goes mostly toward cleaning up contaminated sites across the state. Critics say this creates a reverse incentive for the state. The fewer cans recycled, the more money made off the bottle bill.
This doesn't make necessarily the best amount of sense, but until we can find an alternative solution, we can't remove those dollars because that just puts Michiganders' public health at risk.
I think it's probably one of the biggest mistakes that we've ever seen from an environmental perspective. That's over 30 years where there's been no investment from the state into the bottle bill.
Nevins estimates it costs distributors $60 million a year to comply with the law. But Michigan says the bottle bill was never designed to be state-funded. So are retailers making bank with those leftover dimes?
The 25% of the unclaimed deposits that go back to grocery stores through the law right now is nowhere close to covering their costs. We're talking really about hundreds of millions of dollars that they're spending.
About 40 hours a work week is invested in sorting cans, dealing with cans. We have an exterminator here at least once a month.
Grocery stores need to pay staff to operate and clean their bottle return area, pay for and maintain reverse vending machines, and make space to store returnables. Supporters of the bottle bill say it's convenient for consumers to make one stop, to return cans while on a shopping trip. In a recent poll of MLive readers, while a majority were in favor of the bottle bill, they were almost evenly divided over whether or not taking back cans was convenient.
It's annoying, it's sticky.
There's a long line usually, and the machines are beep, 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 they're full.
What is convenient is letting someone else deal with the return process.
I usually donate them to the animal shelter or give them to my nephews if my nephews need gas money.
There's always some high school group in the neighborhood who's collecting them.
We play in 5 or 6 tournaments and it pays for all of them. So we keep our fees low. For the most part, retailers let us come in until it gets to be too much.
There needs to be a more convenient way to handle those large volume takebacks. They shouldn't be coming back to retail stores. In an ideal world, we would love the bottle deposit law to go away. We think it's old, it's inefficient, but we know that we need a recycling solution.
Drum says a combination of curbside recycling and regional recycling centers would be an ideal solution for retailers. For their part, distributors think more should be done to address bottle bill fraud.
You mean you get 5 cents here and 10 cents there? You could round up bottles here and run them out to Michigan for the difference.
That doesn't work.
It may not be cost effective to come from New York, but it certainly is to come from Ohio, and Indiana, and Wisconsin.
None of the states surrounding Michigan have bottle deposit laws, so out-of-state cans do make their way here. But Michigan's soft drink industry claims a bigger problem is shady distributors selling out-of-state beverages to retailers at a lower price because they don't have to charge a deposit.
So in each case of pop, they have a $2.40 false profit margin.
The state of Michigan says the amount of bottle deposit fraud is not known, but the Michigan Soft Drink Association estimates fraud costs its members at least $10 million a year. There are a lot of moving parts to Michigan's bottle bill. The beverage industry, distributors, retailers, consumers, and recyclers all have roles to play. While expanding the law to cover more types of drinks could boost Michigan's dismal recycling rate, retailers and distributors say the current system couldn't handle all those additional containers.
So you're going to go from this very successful cleanup story, and then because of lack of investment, we're going to go back to having our lakes and streams and roadsides covered with bottles again, unless we do something about it.